Welcome back to Season 2 of the Discount Property Investor Podcast. Our mission is to share with you what we have learned from our experience and the experience of others to help you make more money investing like a pro. We want to teach you how to create wealth by investing in real estate the Discount Property Investor way. Make sure you never miss an episode and download the Discount Property Investor app in Google Play or iTunes today. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. Your host, David Dodge, co-host
Mike Sleen. Welcome, guys.
Hey, buddy. Good morning.
Hey, Dave. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing good.
Good. We always say morning, It doesn't really matter what time it is.
That's true.
Good morning. We know most of you
Good
guys
afternoon.
are probably listening when on your way to work, on your way to the gym. Maybe you're on the treadmill. I know that's when I like to listen to my podcasts and audiobooks. So good morning, guys. Hopefully it's a good day for you guys. It's a great day here at the Discount Property Investor office. We just went through our third quarter rocks, and we crushed it on our rental goals. Our second quarter rocks, and we're looking to crush it in third quarter too. And we are doing exactly what we're going to be talking about today, which is purchasing rentals.
Love purchasing rentals.
We do. We love it. So we've been wholesaling a long time. That is our intro to real estate investing. For most people out there, we think it's the best way to get started. We've got a whole free course on it, freewholesalecourse.com. You can check that out. And again, this is kind of step two. Phase two for us is acquiring rentals, and we decided to do it together as a company because it's just kind of more fun. We like playing with real estate together, and we're buying rentals. So today,
and to scale. If you want to scale to a number that's maximum, it's a big number.
Yeah.
Doing it on your own, it's going to be difficult to acquire more than 5 to 10 at a year. But we can maybe acquire 10 a quarter with the efforts of the team. So it's pretty awesome. So today we're going to be talking about funding your purchase. So you do marketing to get the cash or get the motivated sellers to contact you. You keep the best and sell the rest. That's what we do in our company. So we wholesale off the deals that we don't want to keep, but the best deals that we get from off market, we keep. Okay, and we're going to get those at a significant discount, which is really the very, very first foundation of the BRRRR strategy. If you're not buying at a discount, it's very difficult to increase the value of the property enough just from the rehab to get there. It's possible, but it's not likely. So buying at a discount is important.
I love it.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, no, Dave, and buy the best, keep the rest. That's a great little motto too. But to any of our buyers that are listening or whatever, that's not necessarily always the case, because what our metrics aren't necessarily what someone else's metrics are.
Oh, yeah.
Like the best for us is one area, or another area. Whereas the best for you would be like, why are you giving that one up? You'd be like, well, it's because we've got enough in our areas that we're buying that these are the rest.
Yeah, but either way, pick your best area.
Yes.
And then just the model works the same. Keep the best ones
100%.
and sell the rest. Wholesale them off. Keep the best ones. So when you keep the best ones, what does that mean? That means you have to buy that property and start the process of fixing it up, getting an occupancy inspection, getting it rented, and then taking it to a bank to do a refinance on it, all right? That's the process. So step one in this process, finding the deal. Step two, buying it, funding it. So how do we fund those deals? Mike, tell us a couple ways that we can use to actually fund the deal once we say, all right, this is one of the best ones, we're keeping it.
Sure. I think we should, let's kind of start in the simplest way to buy and kind of go down to the most complicated.
I like that idea.
Or, the most difficult, I would say, almost.
There you go.
So the easiest way to buy a property is with cash. So as a wholesaler, you're usually saying, I'm a cash buyer, I'm going to close quickly, and that's true because you're going to find a cash buyer to partner with to buy that deal. So cash is the easiest way for your initial purchase.
Cash is king.
There's the least amount of obstacles. You don't have to deal with the lender slowing things down. You don't have to get the appraisal up front, all sorts of things. So you're thinking to yourself, if you're new to this, well, shoot, I don't have that much cash. Well, then you got to go back, check out that free wholesale course, and do some wholesaling and stockpile that cash. So you're going to stockpile that cash to be able to buy your first rental. And rentals don't have to be $100,000 rentals all the time. We buy tons of properties that are $5, $10, $15, $20, $30,000, and they make decent rentals. Again, it just depends on what your metrics are and where you are at in your real estate investing career. So cash is the easiest way to fund your purchase as far as difficulty level
As difficulty and quickness and fees too. It's going to be cheaper to use cash at the end of the day than it will be to go a different route. So the next easiest route would be...
We can switch that, yeah.
I would say private money.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Private money, and we're calling this like a one-to-one, right?
Yeah, so what does that mean? Now, that just means that you contact somebody that has money, and they lend you the money to buy it, and then they put a lien on that property so they can secure their investment with that real estate, but you own it. And you just owe them money and pay them an interest rate. And that could be any way you decide to work with that individual. That's between you and them. But it's just a private loan. So they fund it, you provide it and work on it, and everybody wins.
And so there's a few things with private lending, and we're going to talk about private lending again here in another one. Private lending, when you're doing like one-offs like this, is a little bit easier to do than if you're kind of pooling funds for multiple people. You really don't want to do that unless you know what you're doing, and we'll talk about that coming up. It's much better to find one lender for one deal to fund a property for you so that you can purchase and rehab it. So real briefly, we'll kind of touch on where you find private lenders. So, and who's a private lender? Well, private lender is, again, that's like the fancy word for it. I mean, just think of it as mom, dad, aunt, uncle, rich cousin, whoever it is. If you know someone with money, you ask them to borrow it, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people have retirement accounts. A lot of people have hundreds of thousands of dollars in those accounts. And they may be making anywhere from 2 to 6% on that money. And that's just a slow way to grow your money. So you can offer them 8, 10, 12, some cases even 14% to borrow that money. And that money is secured by real estate. So it's not 100% risk-free by any means. But it's not just a loan. They're actually getting something in return for the loan as collateral. So it reduces your risk significantly.
It does, but this, again, Dave said, cash was the cheapest. So this one is probably one of the more expensive ways to borrow money.
That's correct.
So this one is going to cost you, again, we pay between 10 and 12%. Depending on the lender. That's kind of I think the typical going rates is about 10 to 12% on the money. So it's about, you figure 1% per month. So if you borrowed $50,000, that's $500 every month you're going to have to pay just to keep borrowing that money until you're able to refinance that property. So this is one of those things where I'm going to reiterate again, you got to know your numbers when you're doing the BRRRR strategy. You have to know what your holding costs are going to be. Am I going to hold this for 6 months? Well, then on that $50,000 loan, I'm going to have to calculate, 6 months worth of holding, $3,000. So again, you've got to know your numbers. Private one-to-one, again, pretty easy way to do it.
Love it.
The next one that I would say, as far as difficulty, would be just a traditional mortgage or a bank loan. And that one, if you...
Well, but line of credit. If you have a personal one...
I think it's more complicated, though. You have to set that up.
Well, you have to set it up. Okay, yeah. I like that. Okay, let's go with...
So traditional bank loan, where you go out and you find a property, then you talk to a mortgage broker or a bank and say, hey, I'd like to buy this house. They send you through underwriting, and they approve you to purchase the house. Now, this one, you're probably going to have to come up with
20% typically.
10 to 20% down. Then you're also going to have your rehab dollars so that you can rehab that property as well. You can find some banks that are willing to lend the rehab dollars as well. I just want to make that plan clear to the bank up front, what you're doing, so that they know, and again, so that everybody's on the same page.
Right.
So that you know what you're doing.
Yep. W-2 jobs help definitely get bank loans, unless you have 2 to 3 years of a business return. So it might be difficult to get a bank loan if you don't have a job.
Yeah. So I highly recommend, if you're currently working in a job and you have a W-2, and that's the way you filed your taxes in the past couple of years, keep that W-2 until you are earning a decent amount of money from your rentals, so that you'd be able to support additional loans at that point. Because it's very important to be bankable. Okay, so then the next one is what I would say, I think it's a little harder, is the RLOC. Dave, you want to talk a little bit about RLOCs?
Yeah, so a revolving line of credit is something that you can get through your personal name, or you can get one for a business. Okay, it doesn't really matter. Mike said earlier that it's a little bit more of a progress to set up than a bank loan. That's correct the first time. But after you set this up, you can draw from this line and pay it back, draw from this line and pay it back by just walking in the banking center. So it's really, really cool, and it's a great tool to fund your purchase. That's what this episode's about. The process of setting up an RLOC is pretty simple, but essentially you are going to put up collateral. That can be in the form of cash, it can be a CD, it can be real estate, or it can be stock. And there's probably a couple other things, but basically what's going to happen is the bank is going to look at how much of these assets you control and how much debt you have on them, and that's what we call equity. And then they're going to multiply that by like 50% or 60% or sometimes 70%, and they're going to let you borrow against those. So those assets are going to be essentially tied up or frozen. You can't sell them, but you can borrow against those. So the benefit to this is, as your BRRRR strategy progresses, you can start pulling equity from other assets that you've owned for a long time, and you can collect a return in two ways. One, on the initial asset itself with the cash flow, but two, you can borrow against that to acquire more. Very powerful tool, and it's an advanced strategy, so let's not dive too deep, but setting up a revolving line of credit with assets, cash, stock, or anything that you have of value with a bank is another way to fund that purchase.
Yeah, and that again, so this one's not for everyone. You have to have some assets or equity in properties to be able to set this up. But it's a
tool,
and once you get it set up, it's super easy to use.
And it's one of the best tools that we have. Absolutely. Yeah. But there's way more ways to buy houses, guys. So funding your purchase, we talked about cash, we talked about private money loans, 1-to-1. We talked about the bank loan, which is just a traditional mortgage. Next, we just talked about the revolving line of credit. There's still more ways to do this, guys. There's still more. So next, Mike, we talk a little bit about maybe a private equity fund.
Okay. So this one is above my pay grade. I'll be 100% honest, because we've not done this. We have not done this as a company. We looked into it, and it was just...
we have friends who do a lot of it.
Yeah, it was kind of complicated. So what it is, a private equity fund is when you go out and you say, I am trying to raise money. I'm trying to raise X amount of money so that I can do this with it.
From multiple people is the key point there.
Right. So you are going to approach multiple people, take their money. And again, there's some big thing with like pooling. I don't think you're supposed to call it pooling, or I don't know what it is.
Well, you have to have a fund in order to pool it.
Yeah. So the Securities...
You can do many private 1-to-1 loans with people all day. But when you start mixing these people's money together to buy an asset, it muddies the water for litigation. Therefore, you have to fund it into a fund that everybody owns a share of, and then the fund owns that asset versus me owning 42% and you owning the difference. It's the fund owns 100%.
Right.
That's how that works.
Right.
Correct.
So this is, again, we have actually built a course on this called Savvy Leverage.
Great course.
You can find it at Discount Property Investor University.com. We partnered with our buddy Dan Gibson. And he is the guy that Dave was mentioning. He does this all the time.
Great. He's got multiple $million funds and does a great job.
Yeah, we'd definitely be able to connect you with him. But again, check out that course if you want to dive into that a little bit deeper.
Right. So private money equity fund, we got a course on it. It's a good one.
Yeah, one more thing I want to say about that is I know that it's under $1 million. You can fly a little bit safer under the SEC versus over $1 million.
Yeah, there's a big difference there too.
So
That's a good point.
It's different types of funds and there's different regulations. So typically, think of under $1 million. It's probably
going to be a little bit easier. I don't even think you need to. Well, I'm not going to dive.
Again, it's a whole thing, and again, you definitely need to educate yourself. Like I said, I'm not an expert on it, but it is a way that you can generate or pool funds so that you can purchase properties. So very, very cool. The next one is Subject 2.
Subject 2. So I've done a couple Subject 2 deals, and Subject 2 is an interesting way to buy property. We did this with Dawes, Mike. I did this with my Floridale house. We've done this a couple times. We've even wholesaled some Subject 2s to Jimmy and Bob at some point in the past. But Subject 2 is a way to acquire a property subject to the existing mortgage. So the name Subject 2 is just a shortened phrase for buying a property with the existing mortgage in place. So how does this work? Well, it's very simple. You just have to get a seller that is motivated enough to basically let you take over their payments. Additionally, you have to convince them or show them that you are trustworthy enough, hopefully the latter, that you will make these payments and not stop, because stopping making payments will screw up the credit and the house could be lost by both parties. So you take over these payments with an agreement to close out that loan or pay it off in a certain time frame down the road. That could be 3 years, that could be 5 years, it could be any number of years that you and the seller agree. So why would somebody buy a property subject to? A, they may not have any money at all, and they come across a property at a great deal, and the seller just wants to not have to pay the mortgage anymore. They're willing to walk away from equity in trading that for convenience.
Right.
So somebody else comes in, makes the payments, they get it rented out. They rent it out for $1,500 a month. The payments are $1,000. They make $500 a month.
So subject to is one of the ways that you're going to be having to talk directly to the seller. So this is not one you'd be able to, most likely, not one you're going to pick up off the MLS. You're 9 times out of 10, I'd
Good
say,
point.
maybe 99 out of 100, this is one where you're talking to the seller, you're dealing with the seller
And this
directly.
is where your wholesale marketing really comes into play, because if you aren't having motivated sellers or off-market, property owners contacting you to sell you their property, you're not going to come across these type of deals. You need to find that motivation to get these done. But they can be great deals. People make a lot of money on these deals. We have a friend we did an episode with, Jeff Kaufman, did a great episode with Jeff about it, and he uses the subject to strategy to flip properties. So he'll buy properties or start making payments for people that have a property with some equity, and then he'll go in and spend his own money rehabbing the unit, increasing the value. So if he spends, let's say, 10 grand fixing it up, in theory, the value of the property increased by 20 or 25. And then he'll sell it, pay off the loan, and make the spread of 10, 15, 20K. So it's a very interesting strategy. But again, it's just subject to, you're buying the property subject to the existing mortgage. So also in that same realm of having to talk with the seller about negotiating on ways to purchase it, there's another way to do this, and it's called seller carryback. Mike, tell us about seller carryback.
So seller carryback is very similar to subject to. You're going to be dealing with the seller, like Dave said. You're going to be working directly with them, and in this case, they may have the property free and clear. They may not have a loan on it, and they may be willing to. Again, if you say, "Oh, I'll buy it for $10,000," and they say, "No, I want $20,000." Well, you say, "Well, listen, I can't do $20,000. I could do $10,000. I could do this $20,000 though, if you're willing to finance it for me," and that might appeal to them. So basically, you're using the seller as the lender on the property. So you create a note with them, and they finance the property for you. That's the easiest way I kind of look at the seller carryback, is they are the banker now, and they've agreed to finance the property for you. So you're going to make payments to them each month.
Correct.
Instead of the bank.
So there are advantages to this strategy from both the buyer and the seller side. Of course, for the buyer, you are getting a loan from the seller. You're not having to go to a private lender. You're not having to go to a bank. You're not having to create a revolving line of credit or use your own cash. You're getting a loan from the seller. What would be the benefit to the seller? Well, there's multiple here, guys. Think of it creatively. Think of it this way. If a seller is willing to sell a house to you at market price or near market price, even though they have to give you a loan on it, they're going to make more in the long run. Okay? That's one advantage. Another advantage is people that have owned these houses that you are buying, that have owned them for a very long time, and they've depreciated these houses on their taxes down to zero, are going to have to pay a major tax bill when they get paid. So if they loan you the money over a longer period of time, it actually reduces their taxable income. So there's actually advantages to doing a seller carryback that sometimes will be very favorable by these motivated sellers. So do some research on seller carryback. I'm sure we have an episode or two from some individuals that have done some. I've done some as well, and great ways to go about funding your purchase. All right, next, I would say, I wouldn't say last but not least, because there's probably 100 other ways to fund your purchase.
Yeah, sure.
But the one that we really wanted to talk about, which is obviously a more common strategy, is lease option. So you can buy a property with a lease option, or you can sell a property with a lease option. We've done both. So what does that mean? What is a lease option? A lease option is where you lease a property from the owner but you have the option to purchase it at a later date for a specified price. And that's just agreed upon by both you and your seller. If you are selling a property, it's the exact same thing. You talk to your buyer, you say, here is a lease agreement for X number of months or years, and I'm going to give you the option to buy it at this price within this time frame, or on or before this date. Okay? So there's advantages to doing these. Again, if you're on the buying side, using a lease option to buy is a great way to get into a property with no money, because you can essentially use whoever you release it to, it's money to pay the lease plus a spread. And when you're selling, you can typically make more money selling that deal, because you're giving somebody flexibility. You're not just saying, oh no, no food for you. The price is $20,000. You don't have $20,000, go away. That's not your mindset. Instead, it's like, hey, it's $20,000. If you can pay me $600 a month for 24 months, anytime within that 24-month period, I'll let you buy it for $20,000. Right? So you are giving them the ability to work with you. So lease options are a great strategy. We've done a podcast with Gavin on it, maybe even one with Joe McCall. And there's probably several other podcasts out there that we've done personally on the advantages of lease options and how they work. So let's recap, guys. There are tons of ways to go out and fund a deal. One thing I do want to emphasize in this episode is don't let the money stop you. Don't spend 6 months trying to get somebody to loan you money before you start looking for deals. And the reason is because it takes a while to start your deal funnel, and you need to be following up and build this. So you don't want to delay. You want to jump straight into that, okay? Number 2, lost my train of thought.
Don't let not having money
stop you. Deals. Number 2, deals sell themselves. That's what I was getting ready to say. If you find a deal and you go talk to any other investor at a RIA club, or somebody that's doing hard money, and you show them that you have a deal, they will throw their money at you to try to make an interest rate. Money is actually some of the easiest things to get, but you have to have a deal in order to sell that transaction.
100%, and that's again what I reiterate the same thing you just said in a little bit different way, is that you need to start wholesaling first. You need to start your marketing efforts now to find off-market properties, to find motivated sellers, because once you find those deals, you're going to find that money by wholesaling it, meaning you're going to have somebody else and buy it, or you're going to find that money by having somebody else help you fund it. And the property is going to be in your name. It's going to stay in your name. So again, that wholesaling, that marketing for motivated sellers is one of the most important things you can do in your real estate investing career.
Know your numbers, guys. Know your numbers. If you have a deal that has good numbers, funding your purchase should be easy.
Shouldn't be a problem.
That's all I got for this episode, Mike. Anything you want to add? I think we did a great job of covering this one.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening, guys.
Until next time, signing off.
Thanks for listening to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, please visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. We would also appreciate it if you left us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Thank you in advance for your support, and remember, you make your money when you buy, and you get paid when you sell. Now let's go build some wealth.